very much for the warm welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, I have just give some preliminary remarks. That is, I'm of course not an economist. I'm now the legal expert, and I have worked as a legal expert to several entities in Germany. That was at first the Deutsche Bundesbank, and then I worked as a journalist for 2 years, and then I joined a major bank, medium-sized major bank in Germany. I was the general secretary, and then additionally the head of legal department. Additionally, I'm a lecturer at the University of Saarbrücken, and especially at the Institute of the Center for European Law. So I'm not an economist, otherwise I would have been more happier to understand the figures and the curves and the facts are written out. But anyway, these facts and figures have to be passed into a law in legal drafts, and that is what I'm commenting on. We had a lot about the facts, we had a lot about figures, we had a lot about financial discipline, about fiscal discipline, about fiscal austerity, budget discipline, and all these words are comprising definitions or are pretending to be definitions. We are dealing with words which are permanently used, words which seem to be clear, but how we in other way ask, what is black? What does white mean? What is green? So I answer, coal and pitch are black, mostly. Snow is white, mostly. One would not ask, is it a dark black? Is it bright white? Black is black and white is white. Regarding green, yes, green is green, always. But without any doubt, the next question would be, which green is it? Is it a dark one? Is it a bright one? The differentiation, as we see, the definition makes it. Insofar, I'm very pleased with the issue of this conference. When does fiscal austerity ensure and when does it undermine economic development? The differentiation also here makes it, and the definition. And it shows two sides of the same coin. Here and today, I do not dare to offer you a definition for fiscal discipline or fiscal austerity. The problem is, you may look around and you will not be content within the choir of definitions given by experts. That most simple one I found is wording, I quote, fiscal discipline refers to a government that has established a good economy. It simply means that a country's government has already reached a stable economy. Does this definition cut a long story short? No. Why? It does not take into account a lot of basics. The view has established leaves away future developments. The view on the good economy does not regard the public needs. Besides, what does it mean, good economy? Therefore, I refer to another definition you will find widespread. Financial discipline is not too much government spending, or financial discipline and austerity are careful management of a government's budget. A serious definition, ladies and gentlemen, focuses on the public budget and on the management of revenues and expenditures in short, medium, and long terms. But even this leaves doubts. As we have seen and will see, referring to a work about budgeting in the monetary union, it is said, there is a wide agreement on the need for fiscal discipline, but there are several problems with our current definition on it. The complexity of the question, what is fiscal discipline, may be shown by another aspect. Regarding the strength of public finances, it is criticized, e.g., that it often makes, brackets, no distinction between current and capital expenditures, even though the latter affect the government's future cash flows, the former do not. This practice tends to introduce an anti-investment bias into financial discipline that may be in effect a bias against future growth with potentially adverse consequences for public finances themselves. Insofar we are not in doubt with the principle of accuracy, transparency, and reality of managing a budget in good practice, but with sound fiscal management. And what is sound? I would like to draw the attention to all those words which underlie changeable political influence definitions. E.g., what does inflation mean? What is discipline? Where are its limits? Which are the benchmarks? The demand for fiscal discipline is a result of exceeding debt budgets and, mostly in the same terms, a rise of inflation. It is said that governments who build up debts which never can be paid back cause or enhance inflation. Thus, they are enjoying the fact that they get enough devaluated money to pay back the formerly far more valuable. Financial discipline, fiscal discipline, is last not least a demand with respect to future generations. They should not be overloaded by debts left by their predecessors. A general experience insofar is evident and a major motivation for the introduction of a debt break. In good times, budget managers never tend to save money for bad times. So, in good times, public debts are aggregated and accumulated. In bad times, they are taken on the top. To make the basket full, the contrary of fiscal discipline is fiscal laxity. Regarding this, we are in midst of our issue, because the third point following the line of fiscal discipline is bonus for discipline and, more important, punishment for laxity. The Romans said, and it is a principle in our legal culture of Europe, also yours, nulla pena sine lege, an old principle of sanctions. If you want to fine someone, you should have known before he committed a fraud what exactly so has been expected and ordered by law not to do by the government. Concerning the budget, therefore, clear rules have to be given by the legislature. And there we are. We have now made a certain, and we are at the beginning again, meaning the definition. I'm not an economist. So the economists have to say something about what they understand with fiscal discipline, and then the lawmakers, the parliamentarians, will have to catch it in words. As there is no binding definition, actually, for financial discipline in detail, it is very simple to refer to that what politicians decide it to be in the framework of the wide varieties of legal systems. Therefore, let us envisage some different attempts which have been undertaken to manage budgets in best way. That means also for future arguments in the course of your legislation now. A lot is possible, I stress, and in conformity with a general issue and effect to achieve any range and status of financial discipline restricting on Europe. We have some examples, and I want to refer to them. I refer to Switzerland. Since 2003, Switzerland relies on a debt break based on strict rules instead of parliamentary discretion. The rules relate relatively simple. It limits the expenditures during the cycle of years up to the revenues. To the latter attached a so-called factor of economic development, respecting the trend of the cycles. The effect. In boom times, the expenditures have to be lower than budget revenues. In times the economy runs down, expenditures may exceed the revenues. The debt rate comprises exceedings in special situations. These exceedings must be documented. Sanctions have to be taken up to a schedule of 3 years to reduce the overdraft below the limit. Second example, Germany. The debt rate has been taken into the constitution since 2009. New net credit in the budget. The structural new debt, independent from economic development, is limited to 0.35% of GDP. Exceptions to the have to be passed by a qualified or absolute majority in the parliament, the Bundestag. And they are actually discussed in the legislation process. We have it in the constitution, but the process to make the law based on it is still in discussion. These discussions comprise catastrophes and so on. And in these discussions is also be considered as extra normal event. The financial crisis we have just run through or will be envisaging after Greek and other ones. More important for our work, here the weak points of this debt break, which is now entered in the German constitution. I quote, the debt rate endangers the macroeconomic stability and the future of our children. This is the sum up of a public statement given by a member of the expert team to advise the German government on economic affairs, the so-called Sachverständigenrat. The concerns are shared by 300 other experts and signed by them, by other economic experts, by professors, high-ranked people, and signed. The concerns of these general statements are mainly in detail counterproductive effects on the debt rate in a period of recession. Breach of the so-called golden rule for budget to provide for an active policy for future by investments. Restriction to investments in the actual definition is not enough, but extending the definition of investment also on education, science, research and developments to develop and guarantee a life perspective for future generations. It's a so-called Bofinger Horn paper. These issues stress that criticism on debt rate and demands on sound management of budget are not contradictory. And that is what I give you as a message. It is not either or. You are in favor of a debt rate, so you are not in favor of a development of the future. Nor is it a debt rate is an absolute threshold. No, it's you as politicians, or it's you as parliamentarians, or it's you as voters later on to vote responsible. It is up to you all to say we will have to look for a definition being entered into a legislation which leaves space for these irregularities in life, economy, and in worldwide development. One has to disclose targets, plannings, and conflicts between policy areas to achieve a sustainable result in a medium term. This is a general proposal, so you have to define, you have to say what will we achieve And of course, you will not, in a frame of a debt rate, say, we'll take debts and the government will spend it to each one. Yes, there are certain limits which are in a general understanding not to be overpassed. But there is also, out of my point of view, the clear message: you must have space, you have to leave the door open for extraordinary developments, and you have to I would say, to widen the definition for investment, to the possibility to spend money, to, for example, finance the